Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Right Guys podcast. Hey, did you know Congress is giving themselves a raise again? And now your hosts, Josh Hammerling and Max McGuire.
Ooh, your voice was just really hot. That was
In your head?
hot. Yeah.
Man, I was trying to get it today, though, because I'm really pissed, dude.
You're peaking a little bit.
I'm peaking? Oh, my gosh. Let me take myself down here. All right.
We're fired up because they're calling it a continuing resolution. It's not a continuing resolution. This is an omnibus package.
Yeah.
They're trying to rush through 1,500 pages of spending bill that no one can really read and fully digest.
And they get about 1,600 minutes to read it.
Yeah. People are scrambling to try and figure this out. We're learning a lot about the bill now, but not everything, right? Because legislation, so I'm just posting this on the socials to share it. Legislation is written kind of in a very, it can be very confusing to read legislation. It'll be, instead of actually writing everything out, they'll say, go to this part of the U.S. code and replace or with and if with may, like things like that. And you go there, and that section refers to another section. It's almost like if you ever watch like those financial crime drama shows, it's like how many different shell companies can you route this stuff through? How many different times can you reroute the IP address to hide what you're actually doing? That's what they do with this legislation. Something can look pretty innocuous, like, oh, they're changing the word and to or.
Or, no big deal. That's a big deal. Drastic
consequences. So no one can actually read or digest this. They've been trying to put it into Grok, which is the AI on Twitter, and it can't even digest it all at once. They have to break it down into 15 sections and have it go after it 100 pages at a time. This thing's bad. This thing is really, really bad, and we're going to talk a bit about it. But you can talk a little bit about this before we get into it. One of the things is they want to give themselves a raise.
40%, man. Have you ever had a job that has given you more than like a 4% raise? Unless you got a management position, something changed, right? But I've never had a job where they're like, you know what? Let's do a 40% raise and call it a year, right? That's unbelievable. And what are they doing for the money?
All at once is unbelievable. Now, this might come across as a little unpopular. I'm not against paying Congress a very competitive wage if you then cut off their ways of making money on the back end. Sure. I don't mind with giving Congress a 40% raise if Congress can no longer buy and sell individual stocks, and any stock trades with ETFs or mutual funds that they have are instantly reported, not 90 days later reported, right?
Yeah.
Because the flip side of this is if you have congressmen and senators who don't make enough money, they can be prone to blackmail, right?
You betcha.
They can be prone to bribery. So, in theory, there's nothing wrong with paying Congress enough money to have them be free from blackmail, free from bribery.
I get that.
And free
just
from
even live in DC.
Free from the temptations of wanting to put their hand in that cookie jar. But you can't raise it 40% all at once. And the reason that they're doing this is, I believe, since 2009, I want to say it was, they haven't gotten raises. So they haven't gotten the cost of living adjustment, COLA, that every other federal employee has been getting. So if we have been doing that over the last 15 years, this wouldn't feel like it's such a slap in the face. If Congress had been getting that 3%, 4%, 2.5%, whatever each year was, adjustments, but say, okay, that's a normal thing. It's at 40% because they're trying to make up for 15 years without cost of living adjustments. But they cut those cost of living adjustments out because we couldn't afford it. And we were tightening the belt in 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
And they could never find the money. So now, with just 3 days left before we run out of money, they're trying to ram it down our throats and say, oh, by the way, that thing we said was fiscally irresponsible for the last 15 years, we're going to pretend that we had given ourselves raises all of that time. We're just going to bump it up to 40. And good luck fighting it. If you dare vote against it, the troops don't get their Christmas paychecks.
Yeah,
How
the
are
timing.
the troops going to pay for their Christmas toys?
And it's always the timing. They always try to ram it in right before the end of the year. Like, what? How many days before Christmas?
Right before Christmas.
Like, right before. Like, be more transparent. And if anybody votes no on it, right? In the next election cycle, they voted to get rid of the wages of U.S. citizen soldiers, right?
Yeah.
They voted for no research here.
Yeah.
This thing it goes beyond that, Max. I mean, what is it funding? Not only are they giving themselves races, there's I don't even know what's in it. Like, who can digest all 1,500 pages?
We can go
I
through
can read it. I
We can
can't.
go through some of it. I tried to read as much as I could. I don't have that time. I tried to use AI to read it. It's too big of a file for AI, at least the AI tools I have available to me, to read, right? So we can go through some of it. Hit that thumbs up, hit that share button, follow, subscribe, comment. We got to stop this. And there are rumblings as we're going live right now that Mike Johnson is considering abandoning this and instead going with a clean continuing resolution. And this is where I think we can talk about the definitions. A continuing resolution basically is Congress saying, hey, we had a whole year to get our shit together. We didn't do it. We need a little bit of time. Let's keep funding the government at its current levels through this date, with the hope being if you give us 2 or 3 more months, we'll get our act together in that quarter of a year and we'll actually do our job. That's a continuing resolution. And continuing resolutions have a lot of problems because when you're going from a Biden administration to a Trump administration, you're basically saying, let's keep doing the Biden shit. And like last episode, we were talking about the border wall and how that defense, the NDAA from 2023, this year's, how it basically told the Defense Department either give the border wall sections that haven't been put up to the states or sell them. So we're all running around like, how could they possibly sell it? And that was that power was given to them in the spending package written by Republicans.
Yeah.
Who were basically patting themselves on the back. We're going to save so much money by selling this border wall that we didn't put up. Right? So a continuing resolution, if it's clean, would tell the DOD keep doing that. Right? So on the one hand, if it's not going to be a clean continuing resolution, you want Congress to go back and fix that stuff. Right? And say like, okay, it's clean except for this. You can no longer sell border wall sections. Right? But they're not doing that. They're not doing that. The word border appears in this 4 times, and it has nothing to do with the U.S.-Mexico border.
Oh, it's the northern border, huh?
No, not even
Which
the U.S.-Canada border. It's different borders. It's like different countries' borders. It has nothing to do with that. Because when it comes to the border security elements, the Homeland Security, it's saying just fund it at the same level as last year. Right?
Yeah.
That can be accomplished. That thought of let's just keep funding at the same levels can be accomplished with 1 page. And this is what Vivek Ramaswamy sent out.
Yeah.
This is a 1-pager. And all it says, if people can see, and I'll read it for everyone at home, what this 1-pager would say is, hey, you know that part of the last year's spending bill that said we had until December 20th? Remember that? Strike that, change December 20th to March 14th, and appropriate all the money that you need to get you there. Right? That's 1 page. So this is like 1,560 some odd pages. 1,559 of those pages have nothing to do with the continuing resolution. That has to do with the omnibus part, which is the keep funding at current levels and add extra funding here.
Which is just camouflage, right? Because when you want to get shit done that doesn't make any sense, you hide it in the weeds of 1,500 pages, hoping that nobody reads it, right? So you can sneak in like, pick your strange cause or really weird purchase, right? Or maybe give Congress the power to not be prosecuted for all the January 6th stuff. You know what I mean? Like you hide stuff in it because that's what you're looking to do. And that's the one that grabbed me the most, right? Why? Why do they feel the need to hide that right before Christmas in this bill?
Yeah. So this is the section 605 of the bill, section 605, treatment of electronic services provided for House offices. And basically it's defining electronic communication services. And you go there and it gives a new power, right? Basically it applies to any legal process seeking disclosure of House data of a House office on any matter that is pending on or after the enactment of that act.
Oh my gosh.
And it gives the House the power to quash, which is shut down, any subpoena or demand for records pertaining to any legal issue started on or after this bill passes. So if you wanted to go after the January 6th committee, which we saw in their report just this week of Liz Cheney illegally coaching a witness's testimony, telling the witness what to say without their lawyer even being involved in the conversation, very illegal to coach witnesses, right? Because remember, the January 6th committee, it's a song and dance, like it's a stupid thing. People were held in contempt of court for ignoring it, right? The January 6th committee was used to put people in prison, Steve Bannon included.
Unreal.
So when they break the law in that process, they deserve to be prosecuted. But what this would do is say, if that legal action isn't started before this bill is passed, then Congress has the power to say, no, we're not going to hand over the electronic records of that. You're not getting any of it.
You know what this feels like? It feels like the Hunter Biden pardon.
Yeah.
Right? It feels like the I'm just going to cover my ass on the way out. Right? And a pardon means that you may have committed a crime. So what are they so worried about? That they feel like they have to hide from us. What did they do? Could it be some of those videos that show people that were plants? Could it show that some of their people who were operatives were in sensitive areas, even though they were directed not to be? Is it going to show evidence that might provide evidence saying just what we had been saying for years? And it wasn't a conspiracy theory.
Yeah. It's an interesting question. There's lots of stuff in here. And Mandy on YouTube, thanks for the comment. She said, I had high hopes for Johnson, but I think it's time for him to go.
I did too.
Yeah, I mean, he can pal around with Trump at UFC all he wants. He can go to the Army-Navy game, right? He can do all this fun stuff with Trump all he wants. But if at the end of the day, he doesn't actually govern as a conservative, then what's the point? What's the point? And it's perfectly illustrated by this video compilation that was put together, is making the rounds on social media.
Well, with the CR, as our leader just noted, we have broken the Christmas omni, and I have no intention of going back to that terrible tradition. So there won't be a Christmas omnibus. As somebody asked me in the hallway a little while ago, will there be many buses? We don't want any buses. We're not going to do any buses, okay?
And we got to get through this. So look, everybody understands the necessity. It is not palatable. This is the sausage-making part of legislation that nobody likes, but we're governing, and we'll pick it up in January and start a brand new day for America.
It's bad governing, though.
If that was true, it would be clean. It would be, okay, that negotiation on what we're going to spend where, how much we're going to go beyond what we did last year, would happen in January, start in January. But they're trying to ram this through now, using the threat of government shutdowns, the threat of the military losing their pay, as basically a hostage. They're holding it hostage to get what they want. Let me ask you this. Here's a section of it, Josh. This is the section called Justice-Involved Individuals.
Oh?
It is changing federal law as it pertains to criminals, convicts. Instead of referring to them as offender, it is striking that and inserting the language, quote, justice-involved individual.
What the
Now, does this have to be passed before December 20th?
No.
Absolutely not.
I don't think it needs to be at all.
This is leftism. This is, don't call them convicts unless their name is Donald Trump. Call them justice-involved individuals. This is wokeism. It's nonsense. But this is in the spending bill. This is on one of those pages, page 950, it looks like, of that massive spending.
Monstrous. Package. Again, it's hiding in the weeds of this stuff. And think about all of the downstream effects of having to change everyone from offender to justice involved individual, especially if crimes having them written, if you're a previous offender of a crime, that you'd be charged for more. Like, they're hiding those things in there. It's this weird leftism in a bill where it doesn't belong.
This is a Republican bill. This was written by Republicans, but this is a Democrat provision that we've seen it in other states. They're starting to, don't say convict, don't say criminal, justice involved individuals, right? This isn't just like a semantics. I mean, they did this with women. Instead of pregnant women, now they call them birthing persons. I mean, this is what leftism and wokeism is doing. But that isn't just a harmless thing beyond how insulting it is to anyone who's a pregnant woman, anyone who's giving birth, to reclassify them as a birthing person, to suggest that their only real characteristic worth talking about is their reproductive system, right? I mean, incredibly insulting. But there are real costs to this. All across the government, all across hospitals, there are posters, there are forms that have to be changed, rewritten.
Yeah.
Right? There are doctors that need to go through training. And
this could cost millions to do.
They make that as expensive as possible to do.
And there it is.
You can't just go up to the, you can't just go onto the form, do a little whiteout and say, oh, birthing person or justice involved individuals. Has to be redesigned. We have to use this K Street firm to redesign it. It's going to take weeks. 800 people are going to have eyeballs on it and need to approve it, right? And then, oh, by the way, we're not going to get the lowest bidder. We're going to take the highest bidder for all this. It all has consequences, right? But that's in the bill. That's in the bill. This is also in the bill.
Uh-oh, what? I see pandemic? 6, oh my gosh.
Pandemic and all hazards, preparedness and response. They're shoving through nonsense for pandemic preparedness. Last time I checked, we're up to our eyeballs in pandemic preparedness. They shove so much money printed out of thin air into these government departments and agencies who haven't spent it yet. Why do we need any more? Why do we need any more? Why, in this section, are we establishing awards to create and maintain 12 regional biocontainment laboratories? Why is the government buying biocontainment laboratories? We already have these things. CDC already has these things. Why do we need 12 more? This is something maybe we should talk about, not just slip through and say, oh, you either give it to us or the troops don't get their Christmas presents.
I feel like it's justification for existence. You've got all these programs set up by the government everywhere, all these things that are sucking up money. But if they're not doing a job because there's actually not a problem with, say, like crime or biocontainment or researching whatever it is they're looking for in diseases, right? Well, those people would probably lose their jobs because there's not a job for them to do. So how do you justify staying in business? By always saying you've got to research biohazards. You've always got to research pandemic stuff. I mean, it preys on fears and it justifies existence.
But we already pay for this stuff, right? I mean,
so they want to pay for it twice.
This stuff is already paid for. There are federal grants. There are state and local grants, right? There are nonprofits. A lot of these are connected to universities who have huge endowments, right? I mean, we already have these things. You can't just shove it into that 1,500 pages and say, okay, yeah, well, this is just going to be how it works now. And there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing you can do about it. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Here's another section. Let me see.
Well, I really hated the way Johnson said, this is just part of the sausage making that nobody likes. Yeah. No, it means you don't have a spine. Don't give me that bullshit.
Again, this is a one-page bill that could accomplish it. Don't run out of money on the 20th. Fund it until the 14th of March.
Period. Less than 100 words, it looks like. I mean, there's almost no word. It's simple.
Remember last episode where we, I was shocked. I was researching the GEC and came up and realized that Joe Altman was the correspondent for Russian propaganda television talking about it. They're reconstituting it. It was running out of money in 5 days.
Isn't this the group that went after? Bill. Oh my gosh.
And this is the thing, this GEC, Global Engagement Center, you can be against it the criticisms I had for Joe Altman, our old boss at Conservative Daily, was that you can be against it for anti-censorship conservative reasons. The minute you go on Russian propaganda television, it doesn't matter what your intention is. They're using it to further their goals, which is not to stop censorship. It's to get their propaganda in as many homes as possible.
Yeah.
So you can be against it without wanting to help Russian propaganda television. But we were all talking about, like, oh, it's running out of money. It's shut down. Everyone's like, okay, it's out of money. There's no one in the Republican Party wants to reconstitute it, wants to extend it. No, apparently Mike Johnson does, because this is in the bill. Extending it, giving them an extra year at the current funding levels. Remember, Joe Biden took it from a couple $1 million a year to over $100 million a year. They want to fund it at the current funding levels. That's just crazy.
Did this same group also go after conservative voices in the U.S.? I mean, wasn't some of that money leveraged towards censorship here?
Mostly foreign. Mostly foreign. But there were people in the U.S. who did get caught up with it, because there are Americans who, like Joe Altman, who go on Russian propaganda television. If you did that, you get caught up with it, and you wanted to share videos like he does, that wouldn't get the same organic reach.
Sure.
So there are consequences for it, absolutely, but it's primarily supposed to be targeting foreign. Now, the way that this kind of got off the rails is that instead of just saying, hey, all these countries have propaganda they're trying to feed to our citizens, let's stop it, they went to big tech companies, social media, said, hey, stop this, and hey, by the way, you should also stop this, and then point at the Americans, right? So once you get started in this, it's really hard to say, oh, no, we only want you to censor the foreigners. Don't censor the Americans. It becomes all encompassing. But yeah, this bill, they can't have it be a clean continuing resolution, because then the government censorship office would close. So they have to put this in. Otherwise, there's no more anti-propaganda government censorship.
Could you imagine having a business that had $100 million payroll for a year? Yeah. What? I mean, what? There's nobody you couldn't hire. There's nothing you couldn't make.
Yeah.
I mean, wow. So, I mean, we're into propaganda. We've been doing that since since the country pretty much began. But $100 million just thrown at this department, right? How much more money is in this thing that's going to just odd stuff?
How much money do you have to spend? I mean, like, this is crazy. This is a lot of money for an office of people to watch their computers.
Yeah. It's been $100 million doing it. Is that money really going there?
We don't know.
I don't know, dude. Like,
that's the other question here. Here's another part of the bill.
What do you do with all that?
You'll like this one.
Oh, good.
It is redefining Congress's health care benefits. But you'll notice, I didn't highlight it, but it says any member of Congress may elect to enroll in a health benefits plan offered through the DC Small Business Health Options Program created under the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. So while all of us shall buy Obamacare, otherwise we face a fine. If you're a member of Congress, you may choose to buy Obamacare. That's where that one word difference really matters.
Yeah.
Going from shall to may is the difference between them being forced to buy the same crappy health insurance we all have or face fines, or they can just say no and they're not fined at all.
What an aristocracy. Rules for you, but not for me, right? We know it's shitty, so we don't want it. Yep. Oh my God. The hubris on this is what really pisses me off too, because they know there's nothing you can do about it. Like, it's a yes or no. This thing's probably going to pass, Max. I'm worried it's going to pass.
I think they're going to kill it. Because
you do? I'm so worried that they're going to break at the last minute tomorrow, right?
Because listen, no one elected Elon Musk, but he is the hero we need. May not be the hero we want, but he's the hero we need right now. And he's on social media blasting out anyone in Congress who votes for this.
Yeah.
Needs a primary opponent 2 years from now.
I saw that post.
That is a not so thinly veiled threat, because these people run in districts where a lot of them run unopposed in the primaries, right? And they have their little war chest of a couple $100,000. That's enough to defeat whoever runs against them. You dump $500,000 into a primary race, you can unseat a Republican, established Republican. Absolutely. And Elon Musk is the richest man on the globe. He could dump $500,000 into every establishment Republicans race to fund their competitor, and it would be a rounding error. It would be the equivalent of if you and I dropped a $20 bill on the sidewalk and forgot about it.
Yeah, but let's not forget that we didn't start that fight. The Soros Foundation did when they started getting involved everywhere. So if people think they've got a high horse and saying that this guy's just trying to take things over and he's being politically corrupt, don't forget that we didn't start this fight.
Yeah,
we're just playing by the rules that we have, and they do need to be primaried out. And if he wants to drop that kind of whip, he will, because he won't even notice the money gone. Like, what do you think his payroll is on a daily? Right, I'm sure it exceeds that. So it's just a joke. Just endless money for endless crap for aristocrats.
Here's
that the insurance piece really pisses me off, though. I mean, that one bites. If you're an American, you're like, F you, dude.
Here's the real kicker. Oh, if you want to fund the troops, you want to make sure the troops can pay for their Christmas presents, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you want to do that, you also have to transfer the land necessary for the Washington Commanders / Redskins to be able to build their new stadium.
No.
$3 billion transfer.
So they're going to hold the wages of the military hostage to get a football stadium land?
We have to help the Redskins build their new stadium.
They're the command, Max. You can't use Redskins.
We have 2 days. We have 2. No, they're actually bringing the logo back. They're bringing.
Oh dear God, what's happened?
They're bringing it back because they realize they made a terrible mistake, and people are just wearing their old jerseys anyway. They also realize that the minute they give up the logo, they lose the trademark on it. Like, if you abandon it, which is what they were basically doing, we're done with it. People were swooping it up and making clothes. So they want to protect that revenue.
Yeah.
But they're bringing it back. They're bringing it back in some way, shape, or form. But the idea that in 48 hours, gun to our head, government shutdown, or give the Redskins a new stadium. That's crazy. That's just insane.
It is. This is actually giving billionaires stuff for free. Like, you hear about the Democrats saying the Republicans are always going to give a kickback to billionaires and make sure money goes in their pockets. This is a direct result of government doing the very thing they say they don't do.
Yeah.
I mean, the hypocrisy. For a freaking stadium, man. The taxpayers get built so hard for the NFL stadiums. And the NFL's a nonprofit.
The owner is a billionaire. Why do the American people need to pay for a billionaire to build a stadium for a for-profit entity? It's like, the tax revenue.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true, the tax revenue. But guess what? The billionaire has to build a stadium somewhere.
Yeah.
Has to build a stadium somewhere. He's not leaving Washington, D.C. He's not leaving the area. While that might make sense for different cities fighting against each other, right? Oh, I want the stadium. No, I want the stadium. Where it falls on that county line could be a huge deal for whichever county it's built in. They're doing that now in Chicago with the Bears. Bears want a new stadium out away from Soldier Field. And there's a debate. Do you put it inside Chicago or do you put it outside the county line? And both counties are coming forward with their tax incentives to the team. Build it here and you get X, Y, and Z. That's fine. They're not going international. So there's no one for the United States Congress government to compete against. It has to be built in the United States, right? They will be paying federal tax dollars no matter where they go. So there's no reason for the federal government to pay or help with the stadium rebuild. It's just insane. It makes absolutely no sense.
It's bonkers, dude. It's bonkers. I don't even know what to say to this because I hated the idea that billionaires always got stadiums and help with that and the tax breaks and the kickback has always been the tax revenue and stuff like that. But this doesn't need to be decided before Christmas.
No,
like this needs to be a sit down, right? Sure, you want to get on construction, but it's spring. This is not a make it or break it part of the bill to get it passed.
No. This thing I showed earlier includes approvals for vaccine and mask mandates, vaccine passports, emergency powers to fight pandemics.
Oh, more emergency powers.
The continued use of gain-of-function research.
What the
they can't just slip this in 48 hours.
No.
This is maddening. But this, Josh, this is what happens when you don't go through the process of writing the bill, putting amendments forward, voting on the amendments in multiple committees, bringing it to the floor, having floor amendments, and doing that 12 times. They're supposed to do it 12 times for all the different spending bills the government has.
They can't.
They don't. They just refuse. They just refuse to do it. Mike Johnson goes on camera and says, we're going to do it. They didn't do it. And he has the power to force them to do it.
He's in charge.
He and the majority leader set the congressional schedule. Guess what? If you don't have drafts of the bill done by the summer, there's no congressional vacation. I mean, that's what you do. Right? You're working through the vacation. You can go on vacation when you're done doing the actual job you were sent here to do. That's hardball. And it's not hard to do.
No.
It's not complicated. It's not even controversial. Everyone understands you go on vacation when the job is done. You don't leave a pile of paperwork on your desk and say, oh, I'll do that when I get back. You do it. And Congress only works about, I think it's like a third of the year.
Yeah, only a few months, right? Oh. So
Very
it's total
seldom
bullshit.
do they work a full week.
It's total crap when he says this is the sausage making part. Like that just keeps playing in my head, Max. This is part of the sausage making.
Yeah.
He's
Sweeney Todd's sausage making.
Yeah, I mean, they're heading into a Trump presidency in 2025. They have all the momentum here. They have been given all the power to their constituents. And what's the first thing Joss does? Is he gives the power away.
Yeah.
I hope this doesn't get passed. I had hope.
He has only one or two. Like, remember, they don't have a big majority either. So all you have to do is piss off enough Freedom Caucus members. You have to piss off like three of them. Three, four, or five of them. And he's not speaker anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, he still has to be reelected speaker come, what is it, January 6th. He has to be reelected speaker in early January. So, like, why is he doing this? Why
is it just to get elected?
They think we're all too stupid, or we're too busy, or we don't care. That, hey, here's a 1,500-page bill. We're voting on it on Friday. Hey, maybe a couple people will call each office and say that they're mad about it or that they're threatening to vote against us. That's what they're counting on. And the reason he is now considering dropping this is under duress.
Yeah.
It's not him all of a sudden finding his principles.
No.
He's under duress because they didn't expect the pushback. They didn't expect that they get this resistance. Mm-hmm. And so for everyone watching, everyone listening to this, if you haven't already, email, call your congressman and your two senators. Very important. Do it tomorrow. Tell them in no uncertain terms, if you vote for this, you are done. If you vote for this monstrosity, if you do anything in any way to advance it or help it pass, because you got to say that, because sometimes they can sit on their hands and vote no, but they vote for cloture so it can get to a final vote.
When are they voting on it? Is it tonight or is it tomorrow? I mean, I they were trying to do it tonight at 5 p.m. I heard that number.
They have procedural votes, right? So they have to vote a bunch of times, and there has to be a certain amount of time in between each vote. They want to start, I think I read they want to start that process tonight, because then remember it has to go to the Senate too, right? And they have their whole thing, their whole song and dance. So you have to call, email your congressman, your two senators, and say in no uncertain terms, if you vote for this or do anything in any way to help it pass, we are watching you and you will be removed from Congress. You will face a primary opponent and you will be former congressman, former senator. I mean, this is the kind of stuff we used to do at Conservative Daily that really got my blood pumping. This kind of call to action. I'm not sure what they're doing now. I opened one of their emails the other day, and it was a mess. But they're trying. But this was the stuff that really got me up in the morning. I got excited about it. And because we affected real change, we moved the needle on things. So if you're watching this now, listening to this now, I implore you, go to your congressman's website, first thing in the morning, call. If it's a busy signal, call again. Right?
Yeah,
if it's
and
a busy
keep going.
Signal, call again. Either use their email address or use the form on their page to send the message. If enough people do it, they're not going to be able to ignore it.
No. And again, once one of those heads rolls in a primary, they fall in line. They fall in line. You know what I mean? As soon as they see their lives on the line, political lives.
Shandy says, I'm represented by Cornyn and one of the Castro brothers. Pointless. We can't unfreaking seat either one of them, and they know it. Don't be so sure. John Cornyn is not safe. He continues to go down this route. He will face primary challenges. I believe he already has a primary challenger announced. And remember, all it takes is for someone who's decent and not a crazy person to challenge him, and for Elon Musk to dump a couple $100,000, $500,000 into their account, into their PAC, and Cornyn's unseated. It is remarkably easy to unseat people in primaries. You just have to have the money and the will to do it. So yeah, he's entrenched. Yeah, he is establishment, but it has been done before. It will be done again. These people will be removed if they keep going down this route. Yeah, we all wish we had someone else, but at one point you have to hold their feet to the fire and force them, right? They have to fear us. Not fear like the Luigi Mangione fear. No one wants that. Though I do think it would be better if we lived in a world where healthcare CEOs were afraid of that. I don't want it to happen, but I think it's healthy for them to worry about it. Like, oh, I just denied coverage for 10,000 people. I wonder if they're going to do something to me. Make them think twice about doing that. Don't use violence, but fear is healthy. A little bit of fear of your constituents, of your customers is good in those cases, right? So we need to put the fear, not the fear of God, the fear of the American electorate back into these people.
Yeah.
They've coasted by for too long.
They only fear losing power.
And money.
Remember that. And money. So primary their asses out. Get the work done. Start hammering those phones. I mean, you should be calling so much. And this is good. Isn't it amazing how government moves slow and then all of a sudden it goes at a frantic pace when they want to pass something that is impossible to read and cover? I mean, what did Nancy Pelosi say about the ACA? Is that we got to pass this just to know what's in it. That feels like this moment again, right? We got to pass this omnibus bus because we got to know what's in it. I would be shocked if anybody's actually through it. I mean, could you imagine being in Congress and having to get through 1,500 pages?
There's not enough minutes. If you spend a minute per page, there's not enough minutes.
A minute per page gets you through it like a first read, maybe. But you have to pour over this stuff.
Not if you're going to the bathroom. Not if you're going to eat any meals.
You can't put the research into it, right? Because they make it so complicated that now I have to leave this document to go to another document, right? I mean, they know the time is impossible. And the only people that suffer are, the people that aren't going to get paid if it doesn't get passed, right?
And they have three groups that they are trying to make suffer to use as hostages. The first are American farmers. Farm aid is in this package. So saying if you don't pass this, farmers could go bankrupt. Well, that's weird. We have 3 days to save American farming.
Farmers?
That seems like something you should have done, I don't know, all year. Mm-hmm. The other one is the disaster relief for the hurricanes. Yeah, I feel for that. Absolutely. We need to pass that, right? Absolutely, because they ran out of money, and if they need money, fine. We have to do it. We always do it. We have to. We can't just say this area of the country is no longer going to be inhabitable. We have to help in ways when it comes to infrastructure, not just like building people's houses again, but there are parts of North Carolina that still don't have roads, right? Still don't have reliable electricity.
Yeah.
So those are stuff you have to fix. That's the second group. And the third group, as we've mentioned, are the troops. How dare you even consider this? If you don't pass this bill, the troops don't get paid. Are you really going to make them defend America and have them overdraw their accounts? That's what they're pulling on the heartstrings.
God.
And they count on that, pulling on the heartstrings, and they think that is so... It's listen, no one wants that to happen. But it's not an excuse to push through what they're trying to do.
Yeah, because funding the military is a simple vote. There's plenty of simple ways of doing this. But it's disgusting the way that they use tragedy against the American people as a political tool, as a piece on the chessboard. That alone should disturb us so much that it's time for something different. I mean, that's beyond repugnant. That's like the conspiracy theory stuff where everybody says that's not possibly happening. But man, they sure seem to use it when it's convenient. And that's,
They make the argument that they don't have time, to pass these bills to where they're supposed to be passed. And as I said, there's 12 government funding bills that are supposed to be passed by the end of the fiscal year. The government's fiscal year ends in September. So this was all supposed to happen in the fall. Now it's designed to never work because they go on vacation for all of August and most of July. So of course they're not going to meet the deadline immediately after vacation. They're not going to work through their vacations, right? But that's not the issue. The issue isn't that they don't have time. The issue isn't even that they don't have the will to do it, because obviously you see they're all working now. They have the will to do this. They understand that the things they want to do are so unpopular, so unpalatable, that if you put it through the committee process and you allowed experts to give testimony and you allowed people into the gallery to protest, you would never get away with it. You could never pass like expanded vaccine passports and mask mandates. You could never pass that in today's day and age. You couldn't do it, but they can if they slip this in. If you tried to change federal law to remove the word offender and replace it with justice impacted, was it justice affected? Justice involved individual. If you want to do that, you'd have to go through multiple committees, probably Justice Committee, and probably Rules Committee would have to see it.
Because people, I was going to say, people that would be voting on this during the year, they'd have to go on record as raising their hand and saying, I voted for that, right?
Yes.
Putting it in the omnibus bill gives them the out, because now everybody's forced, right? Because I had to vote for that bill. Yeah. I had no choice. And if it had been done in the manner it's supposed to, there would be accountability for that. You didn't have to vote for that if it was broken up into those 12 votes, right? No. And then you'd have a public record of what they did. You'd know who was who.
It would never pass on its own. So they have to link it to something, attach it to a must pass. A must pass. Well, it's gotten to the point where as disruptive and as annoying as a government shutdown is, it isn't the sky is falling situations that they always claim it is, but even just the annoyance of it, right?
Yeah.
The uncomfortableness of a government shutdown. Even that pales in comparison to what they're trying to force through. Like they're overplaying their hand. They think they have more leverage than they actually have. And like if they wanted to pass a farm aid bill, pass a farm aid bill. If you wanted to pass disaster relief, pass disaster relief.
Yeah.
Hurricane relief has nothing to do with funding 12 new biolabs that, oh, surprise, surprise, can cooperate in a gain of function research. Like what are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah. And they get to make all these rules themselves. Like they're just so arrogant. I feel betrayed. I feel like they have terrible hubris. I feel like the only people they're working for is themselves to keep their political lives afloat. And nobody gives a damn about how much money we're going to spend doing that. I mean, we are trillions of dollars in debt on top of this. We are we going to pay that back? And then we need more and more and more.
And here's the thing. There's no border funding in this. There's no border security. So Donald
The
Trump
wall's
won.
been sold.
Donald Trump won a landslide, right? They're not even putting border security in. Like, if these were real conservatives, and if this is really a situation where, oh, this is how the sausage is made, right? You'd see conservative, like, issues being put forward, right? You say, okay, well, we're going to build 100 miles of border wall. If this is how you want to do it, we're going to build 100 miles of border wall. Oh, if this is how you do it, we're defunding all of these gun control proposals that Biden did. It's going to happen under Trump anyway, so let's cut it off a month early, right? If you had Republicans with cojones, with stones, with testicular fortitude, they would do what they promised to do. And every time when it comes to crunch time and it comes to, oh, the fiscal cliff, oh, the government shutdown, it is remarkable how fast Republicans turn into Democrats.
That's unbelievable.
It's at the end of every fiscal year, Republicans become Democrats. This is a Republican bill renaming offenders to justice involved individuals. This is crazy.
And they're going to, and I feel like they're going to get away with it, right? And they're going to get reelected. I hope they don't, man. But what if it rams through in the next 2 days? Like, at this point, Speaker Johnson's got to go. I mean, he's just got to go. And then who's going to replace him? Who's actually going to be a player, right? That could take 6 weeks into the Trump administration. Like, he's losing time again. If we thought that they were going to roll over and not try to fight back against Trump because they lost, they're not going to do it in ways that we can see. They're going to do it in ways that we can't. And the easiest way to do that is to sell the wall, not put new funding in the new omnibus before the year starts, right? And to make the first year a year where you have to force Republicans to make votes, right? And they're not going to do it because they'll never take a stand. So, I mean, why are we giving you all the power if you're not going to do what we want you to do? I keep asking people that all the time, and there's I don't know. They're rhinos. This is a political class that thinks they're above us. A political class that makes a ton of money inside of these jobs. I mean, how many of those people have become millionaires just being elected? Right? That's the thing we're fighting against.
In this bill, Section 201F puts in $4 million for recycling and composting accountability. So, like, helping more people learn about recycling and composting. That's not oh my God, government shutdown has to be averted. That's just something they put in there. You want to know why they probably put that in there? Because they know a certain number of Republicans are going to vote no, and they need the Democrats to vote yes. So these little tidbits are in there to get the Democrats to say yes. Right?
Oh my God.
Let's see.
Disgusting. I mean,
$10 million for the Safe Drinking Water Act, an extra $10 million for the Safe Drinking Water Act. No, people want safe drinking water.
Sure.
But you can't just say we need to just expand it. You have to debate that. You have to hold hearings, bring in experts to see if it's even necessary.
And you can't throw it in with everything's a threat to shut down. Like, you have to vote for this or it all goes downhill. I mean, the obfuscation of the truth. And who masterminds these sort of things, Who writes 1,500 freaking pages?
So in Section 402B, there's a section that establishes a new office within the Department of Veterans Affairs that focuses on veterans' experiences. You would think that's redundant. You would think somewhere within the VA, people are worried and thinking and talking about veterans' lived experiences. But it demands this new office. It demands administrative overhead, but it doesn't set aside any funding for it.
Wow.
So do you know what happens? The funding that's supposed to go to helping veterans in these VA hospitals is going to end up having to be rerouted in some way. Money's fungible. When they don't increase the funding, it has to come from somewhere. They've established this office, haven't funded it, but said you have to do it. That's coming from the general fund.
Oh my God, you'd have to
That's
give
the,
them even more money.
that's the kind of stuff. Well, maybe we debate it in committee. Maybe we talk
Yeah.
about it. See if we even need it, right?
Wow. Just weird stuff. Yeah, wasn't there something about the Abraham Accords office being sent to
Yeah.
the FDA?
Yeah.
Like, why is the FDA in charge of state level stuff, right?
Yeah.
What are, I mean, you want to talk about putting it in the worst possible place. It just doesn't fit in there. It doesn't, that's not their scope. What's the Food and Drug Administration got to do with Mideast peace?
Yeah. This Title 11 of this bill, Section 1202, allocates more money to promote, quote, music tourism, end quote. So
What?
They want to identify the places in America that are historically significant for music history, and they want to advocate people to visit there. We don't need government funding to tell people that Detroit is the home of Motown.
Yeah.
We don't need government funding to tell people if you like country music, go to Nashville. We don't need this, but they're setting it aside anyway. That is what's in this bill. It has nothing to do.
Plus, the market will tell us what music is worth saving.
Yeah.
That's called freedom of the market. Yeah.
Well, it's unnecessary, right? It's unnecessary. Right. We don't need the federal government spending federal dollars encouraging picking winners and losers, right? Because that's what it is. It's the federal government saying, hey, if you're going to travel, you should go to Detroit because Detroit's the home of Motown. You should go to Nashville because that is the home of country music. You should go to Miami because that has a great Hispanic music scene.
Yeah, the Cuban scene there, right?
Well, who is the government to pick those winners and losers? Right?
That's what the government loves doing.
Who is the government, the federal government, to say it's better to vacation in Miami than it is to vacation in Georgia? Personally, I think it is. But that's not the government's job.
No.
Not at all.
No, the state's got to sell themselves to us, right? There's a reason you should come here. That's why they have commercials that say, visit Iowa, right? Visit Wyoming. But it helps, but the government loves to help pick groups over groups. And imagine later down the road, they'd be like, oh man, our party has always been about helping artists and starving artists, right? It makes a great political headline too. They're so masterful for deceiving. It's just crazy. You know how you can have a lie of omission, meaning you just don't say it, but it's still a lie. That's how this omnibus bill feels. You're muted. You're muted.
Yeah, sorry.
That's how it feels. That's how it feels, man.
I'm reading this. I mean, these are things that deserve to be covered and funded. Like one one part of this bill wants to study maternity, labor, and delivery costs in small hospitals. That's interesting.
Sure.
$13 million to do it? Any chance maybe there's a think tank out there that's already done it for us?
Yeah.
I mean, it feels...
Or a university?
I'm not saying it isn't worth doing, but it's something that you have to talk about. You propose. You find it in the budget. You don't ram it through 2 or 3 days before a government shutdown.
Christmas,
it makes absolutely no sense at all.
And they're about to go on Christmas break, right? I mean, when do they leave? Because I know Congress is they're not gonna stay over Christmas. It'd be fun to make them work over Christmas, wouldn't it? Like if the Speaker of the House actually had a set and made them actually work through their holidays, made them actually work through the stuff they don't want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to see that, right? But they probably got 2 days on this. And could you imagine the kind of phone calls and jockeying that's happening in the halls of Congress right now, trying to get this thing passed? Like this has, there's so much give and take in there. It feels like Republicans give far more than they take. Candy Pants had you mentioned earlier that some Republicans are Democrats, but no Democrats are actually Republicans, and he's right.
Yeah.
Like there's never a Republican side. I mean, it's like half of them
Republicans, like we talked about this on our last show. The Republicans are the ones who put into last year's spending package that Biden either had to transfer the unconstructed border wall to Texas or Arizona, or had to get rid of it. That was a Republican amendment. And they said, oh, wow, we saved so much money.
Yeah.
The
Pat on my back.
wall is no longer sitting in the sand.
But it's
no
supposed
longer
to do that,
sitting
yeah.
in the sand. No longer sit in the sand. But then they
Save
turn
so much
around.
money.
They turn around and they fund nonsense. Luis says that Josh is so much louder than me. Yeah, I know. I'm trying to figure out why. This week my microphone just wants to be a lot quieter. I'm shouting in my office. My dogs are going crazy outside the door.
I just thought you were really angry today. I'm just going to back up because I'm going to move that mic a little further away from me just to help with that. But we get pissed off at this. It's easy to start, because I get irritated by watching government waste, right? Every time we look at them, they are just pissing away our money, our culture, or our sovereignty, right? And we're just supposed to accept it. And you better get it done now because nobody can be seen being horrible right before Christmas.
Oh no,
right? They love the window dress. Yeah, I mean, and that's why I'm afraid they will vote into it. That's why I'm afraid it will pass.
I am going to be the devil's advocate. I'm gonna be the devil's advocate. If you passed a longer term spending bill now, it would free up Congress to do all the things that Trump wants to do. If Congress is spending the first 100 days on a spending package, then Congress can't be doing all the things that Trump wants to do, right? So the Senate is going to have a lot of confirmations. The Senate's going to be busy all next year,
oh my God.
Years, right? But the House has to get started on a lot of these things and then send it to the Senate and hope that the Senate takes it up, right? So the devil's advocate argument here is that if you were to do a continuing resolution, a clean one, not this bullshit, but an actual clean continuing resolution, and run it through, let's say maybe you run it through May, that would give Congress 5 months to not worry about funding, right? Where they could work on other things. They could pass other legislations. They could pass deportation funding, right? Because once you're not worried about it, you can pass one-off bills. The idea that, we're only going to get deportation funding with the whole package doesn't have to be that way. So that's the devil's advocate. The problem is they're not doing this as a clean bill. They're doing this as a crazy bill. And they're hoping that none of us notice. They're hoping that none of us pay attention and none of us notice.
And I say shame on us because we've gotten so used to allowing them to just ram through these omnibus and not raise a stink. If this was Malay's government, he'd be slashing everything, right? Yeah. Isn't it crazy that Argentina is now more fiscally responsible than the United States?
Oh yeah,
and they have cut all the pork out.
Their recession is over. They have a surplus. Everyone's doing well.
Like that, like a year and a half, right? I mean, Malay took over and bam, things have genuinely changed.
Yeah.
We have people that want funding. I remember back in the 90s where some of the funding in some of those bills was just crazy. This is not just shotgun approach. This is put it all into the shopping cart and shove it through the door and hope nobody sees what's in the middle of it. And shame on us for not doing anything about it.
Donald Trump has now come out against the omnibus bill. That should be enough to kill it. And as a result, Polymarket betting odds, the odds of a government shutdown have now shot up. It was looking like it was like 5% odds. Now since that, 10% odds, now it's 33% chance. Up 25% today.
Still, do you remember when Donald quipped about the USPS being privatized?
Yeah.
Like, why not?
We've kind of already done that. Like, a lot of my mail gets delivered by UPS, and it's annoying. And I don't know why, but the post office here in Texas, some things get over to UPS. I mean, it makes no sense. But there's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, we've already privatized some of that. We have, I saw my mail guy. He was in a U-Haul truck
I know. Some of this mail stuff, I'm like, whoa, who's delivering my mail? It's there in the car.
Did you see the USPS trucks? That debacle? Do you see that they wanted to switch over? They want to switch over to electric trucks. They are the ugliest trucks you will ever see.
Oh my God. No. Come on, UPS. Don't go woke. I mean,
that is what they wanted to buy. They spent $10 billion on these, but they've only received 93 of them.
Are they going to charge those? Go ahead.
They expected 3,000. They've only gotten 93.
Are they charging at the stations? The 3 stations the government helped build for the infrastructure? Is that where they're charging them? This is ridiculously ugly, man. You think maybe they'd go like, at least Amazon electric vehicles kind of look cool. Those big boxy ones that you see, they're huge. This looks like, I don't know what this is.
Even if they were on track, $10 billion for 60,000 trucks is $167,000 per truck. That's crazy. That's crazy. God. Is there not an already off the shelf option? Why can't they use Cybertrucks? Why can't we slap a big back box on the Cyber? Why can't we do something like that? Right? I'm sure if they brought Elon Musk $10 billion, he would come out with a Cybertruck that costs less per truck.
Unbelievable. I'm just sitting here thinking, electric vehicles have a huge problem with cold temperatures and, exerting extra force when they have to really get into some really crappy conditions, snow, mud, stuff like that. So what's the maintenance on these vehicles going to be just to keep them on the road? And they're going to need to be recovered because electric vehicles just don't do well in some places.
What's the Postal Service motto? Neither
that's
snow,
what I'm getting.
Nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night stays these couriers from the swift completion of their appointed rounds. Has anyone tried to use an electric vehicle in sub-zero temperatures?
It's
not good. I mean,
in Alaska,
it can get bad using diesel in that, right? But charging and running it sub-zero drains the battery so quickly.
Well, let's go to the other end. Let's go to the other end. And there's a hurricane or there's a flood in Florida, and these electric vehicles spontaneously
burst into flames. Yeah.
Right. And it's a horrible fire, right? It's really tough to put out electric vehicle fires. But, you got a diesel engine out there. You just salvage the old thing, you clean it out, and bam, you're back on the road in probably a week or two, right? These things are unsalvageable. What's the resale? I mean, it's just a total waste of money, man. It's a total waste of money.
It's so dumb. And it's just so dumb. And I get it. There's technical things like you need to have the steering wheel on the other side.
Yeah.
I get all that, right? I get that for the Postal Service.
Wait.
It's not just an off-the-shelf thing. But it's not $167,000 a vehicle.
No, but what if we got drones to do the deliveries, right? I mean, we get robots now. We don't need UPS workers. We just need a drone fleet. Maybe we get a bunch of Maximuses or whatever, Optimuses or what are they calling them? The cyber robot or whatever. Elon's got.
Yeah. Did you see that Biden came out and said, "Don't worry, the drones, which may or may not be aliens, don't worry, they're following drone law."
Well, great.
What they're doing is completely legal. Worry not. Again, I think that this is all to try and push the changes. I don't know if you saw Chuck Schumer over the weekend. He already has legislation to change the rules on who can fly drones and when. This is all, in my opinion, designed to chip away at the right to own and operate a drone.
I talked to someone close, and they think it's an op. They haven't decided, he goes, but part of the drones being up is the op itself. So you're looking over there while someone else is over somewhere else doing something. Which it could be, right? All the focus is on the East Coast, but really the big problem's happening on the West Coast. But who knows? I mean, there's nothing to see here. So they haven't been honest about COVID, right? They were never honest about the omnibus bill. They're not honest about the drones. I mean, what can we go back there? They were not honest on the Hunter pardon. They weren't honest with gain of function research. They weren't honest about where it all came from, right? What gives them any credibility now to say, "Don't worry, it's okay"? I have none. They've outspent our all of our wealth, $20 trillion or more in debt. Or is it closer to 30 now? It goes up so fast. What credibility does the government have left? They have no fiscal responsibility. It's just crazy. I just don't get it, man. What are they going to do with it all? Why are they lying so much? No.
It makes no sense. Is the volume better now, or is it still quiet?
I don't know. You're always loud in my head, but you know, I'm just kidding. But man, that's the problem with it all. Wow, that was a lot of a boost there. Oh, you're way loud now.
Way loud
There
now?
you go. You're
Better?
good. That might be better. Back off that.
There
mic.
we go.
Back off that mic.
There we
Back
go.
off that
There we
mic.
go. We
There we
figured
go.
it
That
out.
fixes everything.
We figured it
Thank
out. Thank you, Luis.
Live. Yes.
Giving me
Luis,
the
you
kick in
get
the
special
ass.
star for the day too. You get a free mention
Yeah.
again. Thank you, Luis.
Thank you, Luis.
Because that's all we can afford.
Mentions.
Yeah. But share with your friends. That's worth everything to us,
Yeah.
guys. We really do. We try to bring you stuff that's important, right? Because nobody else on MSNBC is actually going to talk this way. I was going through all the channels this morning about the omnibus bill, and they were all saying the same thing over and over. It didn't matter. I'd go from Fox to CNN to MSNBC to any of those, and like they were all getting marching orders from the same person.
Yeah.
But they're not talking about the corruption of the government. They're just talking about what's happening today, right?
No,
And that's all
it's-
people are going to get.
They give you the red meat to get you excited about something. Drones was kind of it for the last week. I mean, I was looking at one. I said, I wonder what that is. It was a freaking planet. It was an unfocused planet. And like, okay, well, maybe we check to make sure it's not a planet.
Yeah. Yeah, before
It
we
was like
forget, right?
it was like Jupiter. And like, that's a drone. No, that's on the other side of the solar system.
Right. It's slowly moving in the sky in accordance with the way the Earth turns. But there's some that have landed. You're like, man, those are high dollar drones. They're almost like movie drones.
You see the one that the NYPD got?
No, what does it look like? Did it have the 5-rotor one? Is that the one? Because I did see a post where someone had this multi-rotor one, and people have used those same things to do major film recording, right? And that's what's grabbing me is that who has the kind of whip to just put these things up? Are they recording all of this? I mean, is this like some sort of weird internet thing where people are trying to get famous? Oh, I saw that one. Yeah. Like, that's a lot of money. That's like a year's salary for some people.
Here's the fact check. A CEO, Amogy CEO, confirmed the drone was his property of his company and had been placed on the sidewalk after a company party about a month ago. Who forgets where their drone was for a month? I don't buy that at all. Like, no, that's been missing. Thanks for finding it.
$45,000 or more for some of those. Like, those propellers alone are ridiculously expensive. And those are brushless motors. Like, there's so much value here. If you were to sign this out and not bring it back in, it's a felony at work. Yeah. Right? Because now you've stolen. Yeah. So what were they doing with it? What were they recording? What are they looking for? Are they just trying to get likes? I mean, we're just going to see something on X later like, it was all a hoax and we did it.
Elon Musk saying no more bills. No more bills until Donald Trump takes office. That might not be realistic because we have to at least pass something.
Is he wrong, though?
Even if it's the one-pager like this that we're talking about. One page bill keeps the government funded. You don't need 1,500. We'll see. All right, any final words before we wrap up?
Man, just keep paying attention. Like I said, I blame all of us for the not paying attention to what our government does. It's really on all of us. You have to primary these people out. You have to watch what they do every day because they're banking on us not paying attention. Or they're banking on you consuming news that doesn't do you any good.
Yeah.
So that's why we fight this fight.
I'm going to give one shameful self-promotion that actually Shandy beat me to it. Still time to get my 3 books before Christmas. Conservatives' Guide to Winning Every Immigration Argument, Conservatives' Guide to Winning Every Abortion Argument, and a Conservatives' Guide to Winning Every gun control argument.
Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. I think I put in the comments earlier that he's hired. Like he's been, he's like our social media at this point.
I've got my books are fine. I've got too many books around me, but great books. I've been going on the circuits on talk radio all across the country the last couple of weeks talking about the books. Great if you have a high schooler or college kid you want to teach about this, you want them to go off to college and not be indoctrinated. And if you just know, hey, I'm pro-gun, I'm pro-life, but I don't really know how to hold my own against someone who comes with all this data, these are the books for you. Yeah. Check them out. All right, that's it for this edition of the podcast. If you like the podcast, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, give us a follow, like, comment, share. We have the audio edition of the podcast. That's everywhere you find audio podcasts. So even if you watch, we try and make this as audio friendly as possible so you can listen as you go about your day. That's it for this edition. My name is Max McGuire.
I'm Josh Hammerling.
Remember, the fight to take back our country is not over yet, but the only way we win is if we all snap and fight together. See you next time.
See you guys.